For most people, a caravan means holidays. But for the Osborne family of Havelock North, the caravan means work. Their family enterprise takes them all over both islands with their truck and Mark. The job this time, paint the markings on the runway at Aotearoa's new airport. Housework's soon done, and Mrs. Osborne is down on the strip with the men, helping them to line up the job. Mark has two older brothers, Adrian and Wayne, but they've retired from the business meantime in favour of schooling. Once things are straightened out, the truck carrying the tank of paint has to be positioned. Tony Osborne invented this device himself. The trolley not only carries a spray gun connected to the tank on the truck, but a remote control device for the truck itself. Look, Mum, no hands. On the runway, it's almost all straight line work, so Tony, with typical ingenuity, does it all with mirrors. Wellington, and the work is rather more fiddly, touching up. Here the remote control comes into its own, to the amazement of some traffic officers. The sprays on the trolley are fully adjustable both for height and separation. Tony Osborne has brought a mechanical pipe dream really down to earth. His road marker is one way of overcoming the labour shortage. The Osborne family certainly have one of New Zealand's more unusual occupations. They work on main highways throughout the country, as well as for local bodies. There's not much in the way of road marking that this family won't take on.
There are plenty of high officials in Wellington, but Brosco the Robo's 9'6" overshadows them all. Outside the Wellington Town Hall, Mr. Kitts the Mayor voted him the city's brightest, shiniest citizen, spoke a few words of welcome on his built-in loudspeaker, and gave him the freedom of the city. But do you think he wanted to stay? No. It was straight to Whanganui for Brosco, to Mr. Millwood and the Industries Fair, taking a goodwill message from one mayor to another. In town, his manners were simply out of this world. But when he reached the hut road, the human element began to show. Who owns those sturdy limbs? With the All Blacks and Olympic teams away, who'd be fit enough to hump 100 pounds of duralium 120 miles to Whanganui? The JCs, who organized all this, would only say it's Mr. X. Meanwhile, in Whanganui, the people were commendably calm about the approaching visitor from outer space. There was definitely no panic as the hour-by-hour Brosco bulletins came through. They quietly went about the job of getting ready for the Industries Fair. Out in the Manawatu, the inhabitants reacted with mild surprise. It must have come from Wellington. So Brosco arrived, footsore and weary, but polite as ever. And the River City welcomed him. Mr. Millwood, in his chain of office, took the letter from his messenger in shining armour and thanked him very much. In bringing people together, it's the little human things that count. And then, among the muddle of microphones, Mr. Millward read the message. A goodwill greeting from Wellington's mayor, wishing success to Whanganui's industrial fair. Special delivery, Roscoe the Robo, alias Mr. X. But who is Mr. X? It's Mario Gradle, a New Zealander who back in Switzerland was a crack skier and athlete. Congratulations on your very fine feat, Mr. Gradle.
$190,000 people come to see what's new on the market at the Wellington Industries Fair. Need advice about your sewing machine? Ask the man and he'll give it to you. Interested in pottery, crockery or little china ornaments? Plenty of it here and a potter to show how it's made. A showcase for manufacturers and retailers, the Industries Fair brings the latest products right into the public eye. Kitchens displaying locally made sinks and stoves get a thorough going over, as do the boats. And in the middle of it all, a dance band backs the fashion parades with sophisticated swing. New Zealand styles capture the attention of every New Zealand girl. Well, almost every girl. There are quite a number of cars on display and attracting the menfolk. And his wife wonders, can we afford it? A boon to householders with discontented goldfish is this underwater gramophone. Music, say the makers, keeps goldfish happy. Up to her neck in hot water, what better way to advertise than by using a pretty girl? And it makes people react to the product. Free shave. Be in, chaps. The candid cameramen are working overtime. There's money to be made from taking photographs and from running a sideshow. It wouldn't be a fair without the candy floss, the 2-bob in the slot machines, and all the other clever things that entice people to part with their pocket money. And if at the end of it all your head's inclined to spin, surely it's all in the fun of spending an evening at the Industries Fair.
For 4 years, Wellington put wheels under a hill full of houses and then bulldozed Rongotai Airport. Now they're moving the old hangars from the middle of the new runway. It's the biggest house-moving job here yet. This is the 80th building to be removed, and it's going to be the trickiest. Its 2 ends have been jacked up onto 5 trucks and 7 trailers. Guidelines are tacked up to help the truck drivers with their steering. All is ready and trucks and trailers start to roll, carrying the building on their backs. Now comes the test of 6 weeks' preparation. A good Wellington wind could play havoc with this hollow shell. It's travelling a 1/4 of a mile towards the old exhibition grounds on a curved path, so that every now and then they stop to change the steering angle. The weight's taken off the trucks and the front wheels swung over. Then off they go again on the new track. They've already broken an axle once this way, so there's no hurry to reach top speed, especially with the back line of trucks swinging across rudder fashion. Late on the second afternoon, it's nearly there. Good organisation and calm weather have kept things moving, and soon, with little fuss and bother, the big hangar settles on its new foundations. The first permanent building on Rongotai Airport is in place.
Firemen from New Zealand's 230 brigades gather in Wellington for the opening of the Fire Service Training School. First of its kind in the country, the school will give regulars and volunteers up-to-the-minute training in modern firefighting. The Honourable W.T. Anderton, Minister of Internal Affairs, declares the school open, and under critical eyes, firemen give a snappy display of quick rescue work. These days, working a turntable ladder is a matter of brains, not brawn. This ladder is 100 feet in length when extended and carries an escape line. When the patient is attached to the line, it will automatically lower him to the ground. The training tower, 100 feet high with 6 floors, enables trainees to use every kind of firefighting gear. Not only recruits learn here, brigade instructors can attend refresher courses and keep up to date with new techniques. It's a residential school run by the Fire Service Council with courses from 2 to 8 weeks duration. In the final display, 5 types of pumping equipment are used and 20 hoses are run out. Demonstrating an all-out attack on a large-scale fire, 10 tons of water a minute will be pumped into the blaze. Things are damp at the end of the day, but no one minds. The Fire Service Training School has been well and truly christened.
You're viewing with WNTV1 in Wellington. It's now 7:30, time for a look at today's weather with Philip Sherry.
Hello everyone, good evening. Now look at today's situation. The ridge of high pressure is moving steadily eastwards across the country, and this brought some fine weather today to all districts with widespread frosts this morning.
8.31.
Daily, the balloon goes up. As it steadily rises, the weather balloon will radio back information on the air conditions prevailing up to the stratosphere. Aircraft operating across the world send information about headwinds and crosswinds and the shape of clouds around them. Satellites, swinging far out in space, relay pictures of cloud formations covering the Earth. All this information is received at the new Meteorological Office building above Wellington. Here, the latest electronic marvels will sort out the meaningless jumble of numbers and translate them into isobars and millibars. The first of the weather maps is drawn from these. As new data arrives, the maps are changed to keep them up to the minute. Then it's over to the forecasters.
The northern part of the ridge will continue away to the east, but I'm rather more concerned about this intense portion in the south. You'll see
They will decide what they think the weather will do in the next 24 hours. They rely on the latest information, and with their experience of what New Zealand weather usually does, they'll make that fateful decision.
This evening for the south of the country. Now, tomorrow afternoon, the east coast of the North Island, I think the winds will be strong enough there to worry the fishing fleets.
"30 years ago, without such sophisticated equipment, weather forecasts rained out a lot of picnics. With technological advancement being what it is, who knows how far weather prediction may go? Perhaps as far as weather prevention.
Clambering up the sharp ridges and rambling down into the deep gullies at the foot of the northern island of New Zealand is an unusual city. A determined city that has elbowed a space for itself where there was none, and bound itself onto the inhospitable hills with roads that twist down to a blue enclosing harbour. Struggling to grow on its difficult site for just over a century has given this city a striking character. Wellington has become a city unlike any other in New Zealand.
Wellington? Well, there's the wind.
I'll tell you what, mate, the weather's a darn sight better than it is at...
Well, I'm not a Wellingtonian. Like most people, I came to Wellington because of my work.
Well, it isn't the biggest city, but, well, it's the capital, isn't it? Things are run from here, aren't they?
Well, I hated it when I first came here, but, well, it grows on you, and now I think it's beautiful.
These hills and all these steps.
Oh, I think it's lovely.
I like it too. It's interesting. I think the location of the place definitely gives it character.
125 years ago, the first English settlers, after 6 long months at sea, lowered their weary sails and dropped anchor in a sheltered haven. Because it turned out to be such a magnificent harbour, it became a busy port, and its commerce has steadily increased with the years. But ironically, the deep water which allowed ships to lie on the city's doorstep also hemmed it in against the hills. The thriving young settlement desperately needed land, flat land. So the land was made, reclaimed from the sea. There is still a restless roar where white-crested waves once pounded against the cliffs in a stiff southerly. But the sound today is the din of city traffic, and no longer the voice of the sea. Early in its history, New Zealand was governed from Auckland in the north, but Wellington's founders considered that the seat of government obviously belonged in the centre of the country. After a 25-year tug of war, perseverance paid off, and since 1865, Parliament has met in the shadow of Wellington's hills, and the largest wooden building in the world rose to become a status symbol of the civil service. At first, settlement was a game of follow the leader along the ridges, but soon there were more players than room. Now it looks as if citizens compete to see who can perch a home in the most precarious position. They just appear. Comparatively few of Wellington's 125,000 are locally born. They live here because it's the centre of government, or because most of the country's business organisations have their head offices here. But the blanket the home builders are weaving rolls on over the ridges, rumpled, patchy and colourful, further and further away from the crowding city, and always avoiding the parks and reserves so lovingly set out by the pioneers. But there's much more to home building than just securing your home to the hillside and so getting a magnificent view. With over 100,000 competitors, the daily obstacle race down into the city office is a hotly contested event. At the age of 125, Wellington is a colourful, casual capital which has developed the character of a large town rather than that of a streamlined metropolis. And this she has mysteriously turned into a virtue. And Wellington has something else more sophisticated cities might envy. A string of beaches and bays curving for 32 miles through the city and suburbs like a bright blue ribbon. Here is a town, fickle but fascinating, putting on a different face for each newcomer. Her form has been shaped by the sea, the winds and the crumpled hills, and patterned by the buildings her citizens have raised upon them. These things have given her unique character and made her into a city that could only be Wellington.
Well, I hated it when I first came here.
I'll tell you what, mate, the weather's a darn sight better here than it is down.
It isn't the biggest city, but
There's the wind.
well, it's the capital, isn't it? Things are run from here, aren't they?
Like most people, I came to Wellington because of my work.
It's interesting. I think the location of the place definitely gives it character.